Welcome into Dynasty Mode, the unofficial EA Sports college football game podcast. My name is Arky Shea. That is Dimitri Ravanos. Dimitri,
Where?
you, sir, are a trooper to be seen today.
Thank you. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, your face, I miss. So, like, every time I get to see
sweetie.
it, you are soldiering through my mind.
What? It's true. Your brain, people don't know this. It's one of those boot camp obstacle courses where we crawl underneath the barbed wire on all fours.
Yeah, now they're called Tough Mudders, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree
No,
with
no,
that.
Arky, we don't do we don't do the fitness version. We are here to protect the America of your mind.
To protect and serve this mind that is so handsomely going to bring you today's podcast, which is all about name, image, and likeness. A little bit of a homage to our last podcast, but we're going to take a look at what that might look like when it comes to the return of what we already know is coming back, Dimitri, the Road to Glory mode. Yes, sir.
How often do you find yourself playing Road to Glory mode?
You know, if you were to give me a percentage number, 100% time that I play that video game, percentage of time was Road to Glory, it's like 6.
Yeah, I would say mine's in single digits as well, but it's
a good distraction if I really just do not want to get into a season or a game.
It's also fun. I mean, it's a fun mode of the game, right? Like it is fun to do the high school season at the end as you are getting ready to go into college. No, I enjoy Road to Glory mode. This was inspired by our buddy Cole's radio show. He had Jake Haener on recently, and you remember Jake Haener was Fresno State's quarterback. He went into the portal, and then he came out of the portal, right? Like it seemed like he was on his way to Washington, and then suddenly he wasn't going anywhere. And Jake described like you submit your paperwork, and in 24 hours, you get a text that says, your name is in the portal. You are active. You are live now. And the way Jake Haener described it is literally after he received the text. Within 10 minutes, he had text from Scott Frost, Mario Cristobal, and Chip Kelly. So it works pretty quickly, right? There are people watching the portal. There are coaches. At this point, I think every staff probably has someone whose only job is to watch and act on the portal when things change. So we have talked about how this works from Dynasty mode. Certainly, there is going to be a different version of this in Road to Glory.
Oh, there has to be, clearly, because you didn't have that option before. Your options were to then sort of export into the NFL Madden game that was coming up. It wasn't anything like, hey, let's look at what my options might be. Who's interested? Because I always loved the fact that you could get like one rando school that would offer you a scholarship,
Right?
and then like a school that makes sense for you, and then like a dream school is like, oh, dude, man, nice tackle there. You should come to Texas.
Like, right? Wow. Or hey, great tackle there. You should come to Texas State.
Dimitri, why are you so vicious? Okay. So I think there's a lot that can be done to the Road to Glory mode to be able to make it more inclusive and more indicative of what an experience might be like. Because as you mentioned with the Jake Haener story, did you know anything like that? Did you know apparently it's like you had to wait 24 hours? There's like a vetting system of like paperwork processing or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
So that much I knew. I knew there was a process of confirming you're really hearing from Jake Haener. This is actually Jake. He has actually submitted his name into the portal. I had no idea that it was like there is somebody in the NCAA whose job it is to alert all the coaches. Jake Haener's up now. Have at it.
Yeah. We got a QB out of Fresno. QB. Yeah, man.
It's like all the old Wall Street movies where a guy goes running onto the floor waving an order.
Exactly.
So I think,
and then I guess you know what I thought. I think what happens with the coaches is, in fact, I think I've been told this from one assistant that actually kind of knows that once a player goes into the portal and you know that they're live, the head coach gets a text message that says buy or sell. And if you can attempt to then that's where the automatic text from Scott Frost and Chip Kelly come from.
Right. That's true. Jake Haener didn't say what those texts said.
Right. It was it was, "Hi Jake." It's an automatic reply. "Hi Jake, this is Scott Frost. I'd like to offer you an NIL deal for you to come play for my boys." Which, where the
So
hell, right?
I think one of the first changes is there's got to be a difference in the way you build your player, right? Like I think so obviously you would have your attributes, you would have, and who knows, like I would be okay simplifying with every high school dual threat quarterback starts out as a 64, 65, and then you play your way up in the game. But I do think one of the things that you probably have to add in here, if we are talking about whether it is portal or NIL, you probably have to select what kind of parents you have or what kind of involvement from your coaches, your high school coach that you have.
I think, listen, I don't know how many terabytes this game is going to be to download. Stuff. But if we're adding family lineage and influence from them, again, not against it.
Listen, I'm not saying that like mom is the manager of a local Sears and dad is the regional director of Jiffy Lubes across the Southeast. No, what I mean is like, do you have helicopter parents? Do you have permissive parents? Do you have an estranged father that suddenly has shown back up, recognizing your potential? Like, I think that it would be fun to sort of at least author your bio to that degree.
That could be fun because then those parents could turn off other universities who might be interested in you.
Not only that, as you go further in the game, what if you have not even approached the portal yet, but your good for nothing father is coming to you at, say, I don't know, say you're the quarterback at Louisiana Tech and your good for nothing dad is saying, "Hey buddy, I'm hearing some I've heard some things from Ole Miss. They're looking for a quarterback. What do you think?"
I do think, one of the things I would adjust to sort of make this more realistic and more fun for this transfer portal process is that if the transfer portal and NIL is going to be a part of that as well, then I think it's got to be really freaking hard to be good as a high school student, right? Like I think you can't, I don't think, just sprint through, and Alabama and Georgia are definitely on your list, and also Iowa.
Yeah.
Like I think it has to be really tough for you because then that comes into play. Then you get to, okay, I do a couple of years at Louisiana Tech. What am I looking at here? Hey, listen, I'm not necessarily putting my name in the portal, but I get a message from my dad on the screen, the one who just got out of prison. It was like, hey, saw you playing good down in Ruston. Hey,
that's right.
Looks like Tennessee's got an opening for a QB. Maybe you want to put yourself in the portal, maybe make some name for yourself at somewhere in the SEC. Yeah,
no pressure, but I'm in Leavenworth, and the sheriff is a big Wildcats fan.
Nice. I think that goes, to me, that would go hand in hand, because like if you're just going to transfer from Alabama to Texas to UCLA, and I guess that's kind of fun and neat, but like, is it sort of the part of the journey to be able to transfer once you go to another place and then start making your options to be fuller? Not just, hey, I'm not starting, but hey, I could be starting for someone good and I'm not starting, or I'm starting somewhere where I think it's a CUSA team when I think I could be in a Big Ten team, something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think there is the other end too, and you mentioned you're not starting. I mean, think about Justin Fields, right? Wasn't going to see the field at Georgia, transfers to Ohio State. Jacob Coker wasn't going to see the field at Florida State, transfers to Alabama. I don't know that means that progressing your player as a high school student has to be extraordinarily hard. I think that there are all kinds of different ways you enter the portal. Now, here is my question. Let's say you have not put your name in the portal, and I don't know, dad, high school football coach, whatever, keeps presenting you with ideas that you keep turning down. How does the game then play that out? Don't come home for Christmas.
I'm a big fan of the parental influence you want in this game.
Yeah, 100%.
This is basically the NFL coach game from like 2005, but with parents.
Listen, I'm going to throw another idea out to you in a second, but I want to hash out the I don't know if it's just parental influence. It's outside influence too, right? Because once you hire someone to represent you in the NIL process, that guy is going to be hitting you up as well.
Yeah, because people forget, these kids can have agents now. You know, like you can be represented by someone and have their interest sort of spark what you may be interested in somewhere else.
We should talk
I
to my
think
buddy Jonathan Pixley, who runs a business that connects kids with agents for NIL deals. But he told me that, like, to that exact point, like, he will always, because he's in LSU, he will always point to the gymnast Livy Dunn, and he's like, that didn't happen on accident. Like, she's not the best one on that team by a mile. Like, that was created, and that was created with a lot of work from a lot of people. So certainly, if you are played as the student side of an NIL transaction, you should be able to explore that a little bit.
Sure. Or if you're like the kid that just signed a Popeyes NIL deal that was in that meme from a bunch of years ago, that's now playing like a D2 or D3 school right now. Yeah, listen, whatever can sort of be a part of the NIL that makes it more fun, and isn't just, hey, we're deducting this from your team's NIL, a collective account.
Right.
I think it's all the more interesting to sort of keep that game sort of flowing to an interesting rate. I think, okay, real quick, if we're going to go then with the college football or high school football into college football, sort of how hard is it going to be to get to your dream school kind of thing, then maybe we do have levels again, like we sort of have with all the games. Like maybe if you want the ability to go play at a 4-star, 5-star, 6-star, whatever they end up counting it program immediately, then you don't just get the one season of like 2 games in the playoffs, right? In a playoff game to try to get that. Maybe you have to do multiple seasons to get to that. And it could be an option. And if you just want to get playing, you just throw some drills as a quarterback, or you just play a couple of games like you did in Road to Glory mode before. And then that's where Cincinnati hits you, or Eastern Michigan, or, maybe you get to like a UAB or something like that. And then you can start figuring out your college plan from there. So I would be on board with something like that, where it's not restrictive to, as you were saying, restricting how easily you could get to your dream school, so to speak, early on. It's just adding another step to what you might be able to have to do. So maybe your top tier limit for one season in a couple of games is like a mid-level group of 5 team, and then if you go all the way through 3 or 4 years, then you could get to the high level of the high levels. So
okay, so let me throw another character that I think would be a good addition to this, and this is from that school of all the best art is looking at other people's art and thinking, how can I take that and make that better, right? NBA 2K has had the would you call them like legend advisors, where various legends pop up and are like, hey, great crossover move, I love watching you play, and then they just walk through the gym like it's no big deal. What if there was a feature where different types of guys sort of act as a Twitter friend, an advisor, somebody that has gone through it before? And again, I go back to like maybe Justin Fields is a really good example of somebody that did transfer, that went on to a much, much bigger stage. There are any number of guys that I think you could work out some deal that gives them a presence in both NCAA and Madden to interact with the creative player in a certain way.
I think I'm having a little bit of difficulty sort of picturing what you're explaining.
So it is almost like, all right, so we've talked about the NBA 2K, like the Twitter feed before, and how you would introduce social media into this game. I think it is very similar in that, whether it is, one of the things you do in a week, take 30 minutes to have a phone call with Justin Fields, or whether it is you send Justin Fields a DM on Twitter, or you send whoever a DM on Twitter. Maybe as you look at the portal, as you look at, maybe various scenarios pop up where one of the options to deal with it is seek advice from X.
Okay. So someone who would have experience in that situation, so to speak,
and look,
you sort of get the auto reply that you would get from any other type of game, right?
Yeah, like I think a couple of different possibilities pop up here. Certainly, there are the top line star guys from college football, guys that have been in school very recently and were big stars. And there are also the made up generic alumni of your university that played your position that you could reach out to for advice as well. And, there is no guarantee one's advice is better than the other. It is just two very different perspectives you are getting.
Right. Justin Fields might give you some different advice from like a Blake Barnett.
Right.
If you wanted to
exactly
choose one of those two. It's like, hey, dude, I'm still training on the field. What do you want me to do?
Right.
Just keep trying, brother. I could be on board with that. I could be on board with that because, again, what we're trying in essence is this whole new mode has to be a self-contained mode. Mm-hmm. So we need as much realism and detail as we can with this. And one of the things I got to imagine you'd be able to do is to be able to sort of suggest advice comes from one side and the other and the other and the other. So you clearly have your parentals. Clearly you would have your teammates. Your coach, you should have to sit down with your coach if you want to transfer out, right? And sort of say, hey, I'm looking at transferring. And then the coach says, hey, God bless you. Go find a spot. Or your coach says, hey, listen, I'm just saying, if you want to start next year, you got a shot right here. Or then you also have the whole, we don't promise you anything, so come out ready to practice, and we shall see.
Then well, I think, it also like that's so. Let's talk about let's say you do the Jake Haener scenario, right, where you go in and then you explore and you end up coming back. Like, I think different coaches handle that different ways based on choices you have made, advice you have made. Maybe you have reached out to them through other people, and different people get different reactions from them.
I think also when we're adding on to the sort of the advice part, do you think either the longer that you are in the portal or the more people you seek advice from, which technically would take quote unquote time in the game, right? Do you think that then hurts your stock and your ability to go somewhere else? Because I think it should, because the transfer portal doesn't just stop moving because one guy's considering where to go, where you'd be considering what to do.
Okay, sort of clarify that a little bit for me.
Let's say you have, out of high school, you've committed to go play at FIU, the prestigious Florida International. And you have had 2 wonderful seasons as a Panther. And you think to yourself, all right, great. This 4-8 is as good as we're going to get, even though we are killing it right now. We are killing it. So I'm going to enter the portal, and I have a lot of people that are interested. Any sort of pick your team, like your Texas, Mississippi State. They're all sort of interested in wanting to call you and say, hey, come visit our campus. But the more advice that you seek and the more input you want to get, it's a gamble. So you're not going to be the only quarterback that's in the portal. So if you go talk to your dad and your mom and your coach and maybe an advisor, and you reach out to Blake Barnett and you reach out to all these people, well, other people have had time to sort of commit. So maybe by the time you're ready to make that decision, Texas Tech's off the board. Ole Miss is off the board. And now you're like, okay, now I still have the open up ability. Or you get to find out, hey, Texas Tech has already taken one quarterback, but they're still interested. Do you now want to come compete with this guy, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it is one of those things that for the way the game works, there would have to be some sort of clock on every offer, right? Texas Tech's offer is open for 2 days of game time, let's say, right? Or, maybe they don't tell you what the offer is, and it is up to you to sort of guess, is that going to be there if I sim forward today? Is that going to be there if I sim forward a week?
Here is one of the big things I hate about the current college football video game, as you sort of played. By the way, the next season I'll be playing will be on revamped, by the way. So, let's go Lobos. Rock on!
Yes, me now.
One of the things that I hate is the way they do the coaching carousel. I do not find it pleasurable to sit there and sort of see 3 jobs that are potentially coming open, and then the way they do the process, right? But you do know that the one thing that could be instituted from it that I would like in this case is, hey, you go down the list and let's say, hey, you just got a text from Kirby Smart of Georgia. Would you like to visit, or would you like to go play? And if you say no, it's off the table, and you don't know if there's anything else behind it.
Right. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that's interesting. I also think that if we are being realistic, the second you say no to Georgia, like other lower tier offers should be coming in right after.
I apologize for bringing up the two dumb defending national champions in this scenario. If Hawaii says no, or says yes, we want you to come, and you say, I think there might be something better out there, and they say, okay, we'll appreciate your time. They close the door on you.
Right.
You don't know once you say no at that point if there's anything left. So you may have the option of either I don't know, quitting football, or if you
so here's my question.
Come back to FIU.
Here's my question for you. All right, let's say there is nothing for you out there. And let's say that your coach at FIU is like, yeah, buddy, sorry, I couldn't wait for you. We had to fill that spot. Like, you're welcome to come back, but no guarantees. Do you then transfer to a do you then transfer to a like D2 program that you don't see? You just sim through a season, and then you are back on the market the next year.
Well, again, unless you want to quit, I think that would probably be just restart your guy, which you could, I guess. But it would be a scenario that I think is completely fair, because we don't know what FCS teams, much less if any Division II, ever get accepted to be able to be a part of the game. So 100%. Yeah, I think 100%. Then, like, yeah, if you get all the way down to that decision, and there will be people that play with that decision.
Yeah.
Then of course, like, you go a year off the grid, and you have no idea if you got better or if you got worse because you're not playing the game itself. Or I would think that it would be possible to go back and sort of repackage what your high school kind of looked like, and to play maybe as a Butler Community College or something like that. You don't have to put the name on it. You could name it EA Tech, and they just be, or EA JUCO or EACC, something like that. And you're like, oh, okay, so let's just see what I can do here. And then again, it's going to be probably fairly easy for you, but are people that interested?
Well, okay, so this is both like a real life scenario and like something in one of the like mid 2000s versions of the game. I mean, the real life scenario is Jarrett Stidham did this, right? He went and enrolled in junior college, but he didn't play. He just did workouts where he could for teams that were interested after he left Baylor before he ended up at Auburn. So we have seen that before. The other thing I'm reminded of here is, remember in like 06, 07, you could opt out of your contract as the coach, but you immediately, your prestige got cut in half. And for the most part, you ended up sitting out a year before you could jump back into the coaching carousel. Or, pick a new job, because we didn't have a true coaching carousel then. All right, so the old version, like the old games, you could sit out a cycle. You would immediately lose some prestige, but you could come back. You could sit out a cycle and come back. So is that sort of a thing we see? I mean, you would be talking about a year of not being able to do, or a video game year of not being able to do absolutely anything.
Yeah, I don't think it can help, clearly. I think if you're going to make that decision where you're FIU and you said, hey, Hawaii's not for me, there's nothing else, then yeah, I think you do have to be hurt by that. Even if you don't come back and you still want to sort of compete for the job, because I don't think any of these things have to be granted to you just because of your overall number, so to speak. I mean, we sort of put it in the game as, hey, the quarterback's a 97. Of course, he should start over at 95. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that should hurt you. I think you should be able to be hurt by a lot more than the game's actually hurt you before. And when it comes to coaching decisions, as well as if you're making sort of these decisions with the portal, because, what we always talk about, Dimitri, is that these kids who just thousands and thousands of them go in the portal, most of them don't find a spot. Most of them don't find the greener pastures that they're thinking of. So I don't think you should just be automatically rewarded because you decided, hey, I'm really good at FIU. Notre Dame's got to want me.
So that then sort of, I guess, gets to where it is possible to wrap up, does the game need to have, because this was such big headlines in the college football world when it happened, as a college football purist, do you want to see a Deion Sanders scenario where a new coach comes to your team and tells you to get into the portal?
Oh, that would be. Listen, the game used to have, or still does, I guess technically, since it still exists, the ability to redshirt players, right?
Right.
Never redshirted anybody. I don't care if you're here in 4 years. It doesn't really bother me. Just if you're eligible, whatever. I also never cut anybody either, to be honest. But I don't care about the redshirt thing. If you're telling me the redshirting of players goes away, because essentially what's real anymore, and you're
fair,
that I could have an interaction on the screen as opposed to just cutting a player saying you should find yourself in the portal soon. I could be on board with that.
Yeah.
I could totally be on board with that. As long I just don't want to deal with the whole red shirting cutting players kind of thing, because I guess they got rid of the ability to cut players essentially and not offer them the 4-year scholarships since the game's come out. So that's sort of a thing of the past. So why can't we make it a thing that you show up? And if a new coach comes in and it says to you, I got my kid coming. Maybe not my literal kid, but I've got a kid here. And you should probably find yourself in the portal real quick.
Okay, so this is where we wrap, obviously. And this is just like, think about this for another day, Arky. We need to figure out how to bring something as dire as a worldwide pandemic to the game and how that affects gameplay going forward.
We need to find, what do they call it? A force demure?
Force de jure?
Force de jure. Is that right? That's a snail, right?
No, I don't know.
That's escargot. That's different.
Yeah. That's soup de jure.
Oh, sorry, that's not my bad. That's I thought that. Okay, never mind. I thought that was candy.
That means soup of the snail, right?
Soup of the jour.
Yeah. Force majeure.
On top of that, more hurricanes need to affect games. Like we see that happen almost every year now.
Absolutely. And if you are played in dynasty mode and you have some AD control, there needs to be a pissiness about where the makeup is.
That's right. Whether it's this year or at the end of the year, or if it's at the, if you need to go back-to-back home games, and then that should clearly affect things, right? It can't just be like, okay, we just schedule it just like every year you're able to schedule the top 4 AP ranked teams every single year.
Yeah, like this sport is so dumb. You really should bring some of that dumbness into the game.
Oh yeah, it's missing it. It's missing a lot of the dumbness. And they tried to bring it with like the crying and the mean football every now and then, but they didn't fully invest in the dumb that this sport is. The great dumb that this sport is, that the college football game should be all about. It doesn't have to be like, hey man, these are cool horses on the field. Nah, man, let's get some of the silly, right? Let's bring Hypnotoad,
Yes.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Another great podcast, if I do say so myself. Do not pay attention to any of the jump cuts you may have seen, things that you may have also seen altered since the last 10 minutes of this podcast. Just enjoy yourself on this wonderful Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday if you're hearing this. And you should come back to us next week for another beautiful episode of Dynasty Mode. But until then, Dimitri, this is where you say goodbye to the good people.
Save and sim to next week, everybody.